Morning world, it's the 26th of May 2020, it's about 8:30 in the morning UK time. I was in the cemetery the other day paying my respects to an old friend, and as I walked into the cemetery there was 4 pallbearers walking down the path with a coffin over their shoulders. And when I left the cemetery about 2 hours later, they were still walking around with the coffin on their shoulders. I don't know, they must have lost the plot. Honestly, there's so many COVID jokes around now, it's a bit of a pandemic. The t-shirt I was wearing yesterday, unfortunately folks, it was not New York, it was San Francisco. It was a Psycho Frisco shirt given to me by a good client last time I was in San Francisco. I'm not going back there for a time, unfortunately. I've just had to cancel all my trips abroad, but then everyone is. So fair enough. I was going to just be doing a normal astrology video today because I've got so much backlog to catch up on. I've got to do the Uranus Saturn stuff that I promised to do a few weeks ago. I've got lots of stuff to do on the retrogrades, but I caused a bit of a storm yesterday, so I do need to follow up on that. And first thing I need to do is apologise, because someone said I never apologise, and actually I do. I am going to apologise for something I said yesterday because I was a bit silly. I'm talking about England and I should have been talking about Britain. I was silly. I forgot to realise that I'm not just English, I'm British. I live in a country that's England along with Ireland, well, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. So my apologies, sincere apologies to those other Britons whom I share this island with. I also want to raise just a quick subject before I get onto some proper astrology. A lot of people go, oh, you're a left-wing raving socialist. And it's like, no, I'm not. I think that Jeremy Corbyn was one of the worst things that's ever happened to British politics. And the politics of the left-wing Labour Party under his reign did no favours. I've got no time for that type of old-fashioned drivel. But I'm certainly not a right-wing fascist Tory. I'm a Green. Although it has to be said, Keir Starmer, the new leader of the Labour Party, is a breath of fresh air. And I've never voted Labour in my life, but if he carries on doing what he's doing, I might see myself going his way, because he's certainly holding people to account, and that's the right thing to be doing at this time. I could go on about the codependency that exists in British politics between various levels of government, especially at the higher echelons. Suffice to say that we live in dangerous and exciting times. And we are coming up now to eclipse season. If you look in the ephemeris, and for all of those budding astrologers out there, it's very easy now to go out and get a number of different software packages from which you can construct horoscopes and do readings. And indeed, but many people say to me, what's the best way to learn astrology? And this is a bit of an adjunct here. There are 3 good ways to learn astrology if you're in Britain. One is the best way, very long-winded, very laborious, very thorough, and that is to enrol with the Faculty of Astrological Studies. I didn't, I was self-taught, and I recommend everyone should be self-taught. But if you want to be taught, the Faculty of Astrological Studies is easily the best teachers, probably in the world, of astrology. Highly recommended. I also strongly recommend a book by someone I did my MA with many years ago, a woman called Sue Fairbrother, F-A-R-E brother. She wrote about 6 years ago a book called Astrology Decoded. You can get it as a download on bloody Amazon. And it is the best teach yourself astrology book there is out there on the market. You can't do astrology if you're just using software packages. You've got to learn the maths. You've got to be able to do it by hand. Otherwise, you can't call yourself an astrologer. If you can do it by hand, then you can use the software packages all the time. But you've got to be able to do the calculations yourself. Otherwise, you don't get the deeper meaning of it. You just scrape the surface. In that light, looking at the deeper meaning, we're heading into eclipse season. Now, the reason I went off on one just there is because you're not a proper astrologer if you can't read an ephemeris. An ephemeris is like a bus timetable, except that it gives the positions of the planets for every day of the year, and sometimes for every day of 100 years, depending on how big the ephemeris is. And any budding astrologer who's reading their ephemeris is going to be noticing that we've got 3 eclipses coming up. There is an eclipse of the full moon in about 10 days time, something like that. But it is so far away from the North Node that it's going to be such a marginal, such a minute eclipse that we're probably not going to see it. The moon might just change a little bit of colour, but it's not going to be a big deal. A month after that, there will also be an eclipse of the full moon towards around about the first week of July. I think it's about the 5th of July. But that is also so far away from a North Node that it's not going to be a big deal. Again, the moon might change colour. However, on the solstice, well, on the 21st of June, which will be the day after solstice in the UK, there will be a near total eclipse of the sun. I think it's happening somewhere around 7:30, 7:45 in the morning UK time on the 21st of June. And it is taking place at 0 degrees of Cancer, at the very start of Cancer. Now this is going to be very strongly conjunct the North Node. And for an eclipse to be total, it's got to be within 2 or 3 degrees of the North Node, whether it's a full moon or a new moon. It's fascinating to see who that's hitting. It's certainly right on top of Boris Johnson's North Node and very close to his sun, which is why I was suggesting yesterday that he's going to not be lasting the course much longer, and he is on his way out. And if Cummings resigns first, Johnson will follow him. And if Johnson resigns first, Cummings will follow him. There is a sense of codependency there. It's also affecting a number of other politicians' charts around the world. And I will be covering the charts of Brazil, America, at some stage over the coming couple of weeks. Every country is reacting to coronavirus, to COVID, differently. But the eclipses of June and early July are the forerunner, because shortly now, 4 or 5 weeks from now, Mars will move into Aries, and then we get to the serious end, the end game of this year. Mars will then be in Aries for the second half of this year, and there's lots of different trigger points coming up with lots of potential flashpoints happening all around the world, particularly around, and I'm only getting this from doing clients' charts, particularly around the 2nd/3rd week of August, the 16th of October new moon, and the period around Christmas, although that's a very different ball game around mid-December, late December, because by then the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius, both Jupiter and Saturn will be moving into Aquarius within a few days of each other. And there is an extremely convoluted, complex and compressed period of astrological energy around the very start of January in a way that is pretty difficult. We are heading into absolutely crazy times, and in many ways it seems that the second half of this year, or rather mid-July through to mid-January, is in very, very many ways, from an astrological perspective, a kind of ongoing summary of the acceleration of astrological intensity that's been going on since 1999. We live in strange times. We live in very accelerated times. We live in times where rulers break the laws and get away with it. But the majority of the people, they don't just obey the laws, they do things because they know it's common sense. And these are the people who ultimately come out of this with integrity and dignity. Not the people who complain, not the trolls, not the people who are always looking for someone else or something else to blame. The people who just get on with their lives and make the best of it, bring some humour into their lives, bring some joy into their lives, smile rather than whinge. Because at the end of the day, You can't take it with you. You can make as much money as you like, but you can't take it with you. What you can take with you is your sense of integrity, dignity and personal happiness. And as I get older, I'm realising that being happy and being content in yourself is the single most valuable thing you can have. That's why those of you that know me who get emails from me know that my email tag is negativity can't exist where there's humour. Okay, enough now. I've got work to do. More tomorrow. Catch you later, world. Bye.